Howdy. I just arrived at this conversation. I am also curious about how to generate a combined surface of the lower elevations. I think this should not be too complex for Autodesk to add to Civil 3D, but since it's not, for the most of last couple of years I've been using Blender to achieve this, because Blender does allow provide the tools to do just this. So I'm just gonna, I think I downloaded where is it? The quarter, bottom, and ground surface from the original author, as well as the top and bottom from Voity1's solution. In Blender, I just go into this grading tools, which is add-on for Blender I wrote. That imports my bottom and ground provided by the original author. Let's also import the bottom and top generated by the other gentleman in the discussion. There is some issues over here. I mean, it's not necessarily an issue with the surface, it's Civil 3D issue. Over here, I didn't know exactly how to triangulate because there was no data. So it did this sort of not exactly clean transition. And the top, this looks much better. It probably just connected to the original geometry here because these two were provided, like the top over here and this bottom, and just connected to the two. So the transition on this one looks much better. We will not be looking at the solution. We're going to try to come to the solution our own way now. The first thing I will do is Civil 3D, when you export LandXML of this surface, unfortunately it includes some random points. Maybe the original author would know why these points are here, but I'm just going to delete them as I don't need them, and neither are those 2 points. So I arrive at my clean surface and the road here. I do see also that the road was nicely clipped right on the surface along the edges here. But for Blender to make a good connection, really clean connection, I might redo these, if that makes any sense. Let's see. So first thing, I'm gonna make these into quads, select the road. I'm gonna invert the selection and delete those because I think I can do them myself. And just to QC, all these are at 66. That's 1 to 1.5 grade, I think. 1 to 1.5. Okay. So that's what we're going to aim for. So let's see here. That's our ground, and we need to transition. Okay. So we're going to go for two solutions. One is where we put the road on top of here, and the other one is where we cut the road into the existing topography. So we're going to duplicate the original here, and what we're going to do is, this is going to be the filler. We're going to be filling. So I'm just going to select all the edges across on the road. And there's this tool, once again, something I wrote that allows me, I'm just like sliding in, I'm not seeing anything, sorry. So this is like a 1 to 1.5 downwards this way. Okay, that looks perfect. Let's just make sure it connects with the road nicely. And we don't need any of this here. So we're going to delete that and everything past that. And now just to make this a solid, we're just going to do something like that. So now it's a solid. Duplicate our topography also. And make our topography or existing ground also a solid. Check the orientation of the faces. And that means that you can have in Blender an object where the inside is on the out, if that makes sense. So red would be incorrect here. So I've been using this for a while, so I'm just like using shortcuts, but I'm recalculating normals so that blue is on the outside, and using a tool for Blender called bool tool here to just connect these two with a Boolean operator. So I select my quote unquote cutter. I mean, it's not a cutter, it's additive Boolean operator right now. Select the target, which is the ground topo, and I click Control+. And applying the modifier, I'm going to delete the other object, I arrived at, hold on, I think I modified the original here, so bottom one, ground one. Yeah, I did it. Original is the add, where we're adding or filling. So once again, do that, apply, delete my thing, and now we're going to delete all of, well, that's weird. Let's do it something like this. All those faces, and we arrived at our new surface. Let's triangulate everything and make sure everything works in Civil 3D. There's several checks I have, and it looks perfect. Let's do the other side. So if we were to do it the other way, where we want to cut, let's take the road and do the same thing we did previously, but grade the other way. So grade up, and I'm not exactly sure how far we need to go. So there's a problem somewhere, I think, because this here should not exist. I mean, clearly a problem. So this grading tool you see here is something I wrote, but I know there's also some bugs when let's just call them edge cases. And to clear this problem, let's go to view. Let's add a couple more zeros so hopefully we can see the end. And let's select all those vertices, delete them. And now we need to find where our problem is. And it's right over here. We have a hole in our surface. We're just going to delete this face and create a new face instead of it. So now our cutter looks good, except for it's inside out. So we're going to flip the faces, and we're going to need to do the same thing with our, let's delete, duplicate the original. So trying to select that. We're going to do the same thing as we did previously, where we make it a solid, and we're going to cut into it using Control minus from the Bool tool add-on, and we arrive at a perfect surface once again. Let's delete all the unnecessary faces facing down, if that makes any sense. And that's our cut surface. Fill, and from here I should be able to just export solution and import it into Civil 3D. So opening a new drawing in Civil 3D, and let's LandXML the solution here. Two surfaces. Now because I use Blender, you don't necessarily need to delete source data. The Blender add-on I wrote for exporting surfaces doesn't necessarily include source data. And I guess this should be it. Maybe it would make sense to increase the contour line interval, and it should be over here, right? So 0.2. Okay, yep, that looks exactly as it should. So that's my solution to adding the road using Blender. And if you do this a couple times and I'm not commenting over it, it should not take more than 2 or 3 minutes to arrive at the solution. But yeah, hope this is helpful, and if there is interest, I may look into possibly making a product out of the Blender scripts I wrote. You guys have a good day. Bye.